Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I am Money Mike, and this is a brand new Front 7 podcast. Today on this channel, I am going to be looking at head coaches that are on the hot seat as we head into the quarter mark of the 2020 NFL season. We are now 3 weeks into the season. A season that nobody thought we would have. A season that we thought would be delayed, but here we are, 3 weeks into the 2020 NFL season. A lot to talk about, and for some teams, it's already time to, well, just end the season. Yeah, I know that's a very bad. That's a very bad Jets pun, alright? Look, trying to have some fun with this here on this channel. So if you like this video and you've liked my previous videos, or if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen the Front 7 podcast, go ahead and check out my previous videos from the last couple of weeks as I've previewed each week heading into the new week of the NFL. And I will have one this week on Thursday previewing week number 4 and the very, very dreadful Broncos-Jets Thursday night game. Both of those head coaches, Adam Gase and Vic Fangio, have their teams at 0-3 right now, heading into this Thursday's game. So we literally have a game on Thursday night that is between two teams that are combined 0-6. Oh man, I think I'd rather rewatch tonight's game between my Ravens and the Chiefs on Thursday night. But let's think about this here. You know, Adam Gase is hired by the Jets. Comes in, there's a lot of questions about the hire. Was it a good hire, bad hire? Then you see Ryan Tannehill. He goes in Tennessee, takes over from Marcus Mariota. He leads the Titans to the AFC title game. You head into this season. Ryan Tannehill has the Titans at 3-0. And so Tannehill got away from Adam Gase, and Tannehill is doing very, very good in Tennessee. Meanwhile, Sam Darnold is kind of just wasting away under Adam Gase. Clearly, at this point, Adam Gase, I think his seat is the hottest heading into this week's game on Thursday. Adam Gase, it's going to take a lot for Adam Gase to not be fired at some point in the middle of the season. If he lasts the entire season, I will be surprised. Look, obviously, just everything is going wrong for the Jets. Right now, they're probably in the running for Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. There's a plethora of 0-3 teams. So, right now, the competition for Trevor Lawrence and the tank for Trevor sweepstakes, it's getting very crowded. We have a lot of 0-3 teams. Obviously, I don't mean the Texans, but that's another team we'll be talking about in a minute. But obviously, everything is going wrong for Adam Gase in New York. The Jets clearly have to start over. They made a bad hire with Adam Gase. I think to me, this is going to be the end of the road for Adam Gase. Now let's go ahead and talk about the Broncos. So Vic Fangio, a hire that was very surprising. And I don't mean in a way discrediting Vic Fangio, but with the league being more offensive driven, we have seen more so offensive coach coordinators become head coaches, because teams are trying to build that good offense and build a great solid offense. So I think to me this is kind of one of those things where the Broncos might have to move on. I mean, if they're 0-3, I mean, they're going to have to turn it around big time. I think to me, if John Elway wants Drew Lock to succeed, I think they're going to have to look at look at bringing in an offensive coordinator, perhaps look into their AFC West rivals, bringing in the Chiefs offensive coordinator. There's so much. They got to bring in somebody that can help develop Drew Lock. They need to bring in somebody that can develop Drew Lock and develop that offense. I mean, look, they have the weapons on offense in Denver. They go out and they get Noah Fant in the draft. They drafted Jerry Jeudy. They have Cortland Sutton there. They have the offensive weapons. I just think they need that one person on offense that can mold everything together into a cohesive unit. And I think Eric Bieniemy, or I know I'm botching that completely. The offensive coordinator in Kansas City might just be the perfect person for it. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think Drew Lock needs a offensive coach that can help develop him. It just seems as if the days of bringing in a defensive coordinator. I mean, yeah, Sean McDermott, in Buffalo, he's having a lot of success. He was a defensive coordinator. But again, I think that's just kind of one of those rare exceptions to the rule. And like I said, he probably has the hottest hot seat besides Adam Gase. And that's Dan Quinn. Now, perhaps Dan Quinn gets fired after this video is made. But can we name any more iconic duos than Atlanta Falcons and blown leads? I mean, look, the Buffalo Bills led 28-3 over the Rams on Sunday. I thought we were going to get a repeat of the Super Bowl, and the Bills were going to fall victim of blowing a 28-3 lead, but a very questionable DPI call. I mean, maybe it could have been holding, but that's karma for the Rams and the NFL for what they did against the Saints a couple years ago. That's karma, NFL. So the Rams got their karma from that pass interference against the Saints a couple years ago. But back to Atlanta. Now, ever since they blew that lead in the Super Bowl, it's been a downfall for Atlanta. It's been one of those things where it feels like they've been broken. Like the Patriots broke them when they made that comeback and won, and they've struggled mightily to try to repair and fix themselves. And then we saw the last week against Dallas, 29-10 the sequel, and then 29-10 the next chapter, the next part of the movie, 29-10, was blowing the lead to the Chicago Bears on Sunday. And by Nick Foles, who led the comeback. And Mitch Trubisky may not even have his job anymore. I mean, the Bears are being mum on who the quarterback's going to be, but I think we know who it's going to be. But I think Matt Nagy, who I thought would be the topic of this video heading into the year, but the Bears are 3-0. So Matt Nagy might have saved his job. Dan Quinn, meanwhile, he can't stop blowing leads. That's a coaching issue. It's easy to sit there and say, well, Kyle Shanahan blew the lead, he kept passing the ball, blah, 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 instead of running the ball. And That's why the Patriots were able to win, because they didn't run out the clock. They didn't try to take time off the clock. And then we saw the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, where the 49ers had the lead, and they blew that lead. So apparently, Kyle Shanahan likes to blow leads in the Super Bowl, and Atlanta just likes to blow leads in general. So, Dan Quinn right now, I think Atlanta is looking, they're 0-3. I think they're looking at something like maybe you need a fresh start. I think, it's one of those things where after so long, like, the message that the coach wants to give the players, it just gets stale, and it just gets old, and it's tiring, and and then there's no result. You're not winning. I think that's what's going on in Atlanta, where I think Dan Quinn right now, I think it's just kind of tiring. I think Atlanta just needs a fresh voice in the locker room. They need a new, fresh perspective on things, and they have not been. And this is the Atlanta's first 0-3 start since 2007. So, one has to wonder, is Matt Ryan's last year? Because you could trade him off and get some decent value for Matt Ryan, who is still playing at a very high level. So Matt Ryan could get some good, decent value if Atlanta was in a position, if perhaps in a position they bring in a new head coach and they say, you know what, we're going to go with Justin Fields, or by some miracle the Jets don't have the first overall pick, and Atlanta ends up with the first overall pick. They get Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I think, to me, this could be kind of an end of an era, type of deal with Matt Ryan in Atlanta. I think unless Atlanta can turn it around here after this, heading into this week, and you talk about making some big comeback to get that 7th seed in the NFC, I don't see how Dan Quinn makes it to 2021 as the Falcons head coach. But like I said, perhaps by the time this video is already aired, that he might be out of a job. He might have been fired. So we'll have to see. The Minnesota Vikings, we're talking about Detroit. We're looking at Matt Patricia and the Lions, who got a huge road win against Arizona off the leg of Matt Prater. And we're looking at them, they're a playoff or bust, obviously, but we got to look at Minnesota now, because Minnesota, they went to the NFC Championship game in 2017. They then went all out and brought in Kirk Cousins in a win or nothing, like all in. They went all in on Kirk Cousins. They said, Case Keenum isn't our guy, but if we had a better quarterback, we could get to the Super Bowl. And they brought in Kirk Cousins, and it hasn't really worked out. Obviously, they extended him 2 more years, but they're sitting at 0-3. And I think just like in Atlanta, I think Mike Zimmer he's been a great coach. Like I said, I think there's still potential in defensive coordinators to be head coaches. Mike Zimmer has shown that in Minnesota. The Vikings have done very well under him. I think it's one of those things where they're sitting at 0-3. We might be looking at the very same situation where Minnesota might be needing a head coaching change. Might have to bring in an offensive guru that can help take Kirk Cousins to that next level, take that offense to the next level. Look at what Cleveland's doing. Cleveland, they brought in Kevin Stefanski, who was the Vikings offensive coordinator, and now you see what they're doing in Cleveland. They're 2-1. So the Browns are now like the are over 500 for the first time since 2014. But like to me, Minnesota, 0-3, you have to sit there and question, if this doesn't get turned around, does Mike Zimmer get fired? Are they looking at maybe a quarterback and saying, you know what, this Kirk Cousins experiment has been a bust. Let's just reload this whole team, rebuild it with a new quarterback, and let's see what happens with a new head coach, things like that. But this is probably the most surprising 0-3 team because the Vikings were in the playoff last year. They were the 6th seed, and then they also went and they upset the Saints in the playoffs. So I think a lot of people expected them to be a playoff team this year, but now they're sitting at 0-3, and as we know, it's very hard to make the playoffs coming from 0-3. Another 0-3 team that, does Bill O'Brien, the general manager, fire Bill O'Brien, the head coach? Look, Houston, you have a problem. Bill O'Brien is not the guy. He's ruined your team. He's traded away DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson. DeAndre Hopkins is doing very, very well in Arizona. And it's clear on offense that Hopkins is missed. They don't have the firepower they used to have. It's great to have David Johnson, but like to me, it's like one of those things where it's like this is the trade. That might have been the trade that gets Bill O'Brien fired. Houston gave him the reins. They said, you know what, you're going to be the GM. You're going to be in control of everything. And I think that was a bad move. Houston is now 0-3. Pittsburgh moves to 3-0 for the first time since 2010. And, to me, you got to look at Houston and go, this should be it for Bill O'Brien. Because Bill O'Brien is trying to do things his way. He's trying to do things the Patriot way, and it's not going to work. He's made it work for quite a bit, but I think, to me, trading DeAndre Hopkins, and you see the effects there with the offense. It's clear as day. Deshaun misses Hopkins, and you don't do that. You don't take away your team number one receiver and get nothing in return. You only got a second rounder back, but you should have gotten at least a couple first rounders. That's what the Bills gave up for Stephon Diggs, but everything just seems to be falling apart for these teams that I'm talking about. Bill O'Brien has destroyed the Texans. Are they ever going to get over that hump? They just paid Deshaun Watson a bunch of money to be the guy in Houston for a long time. Is he going to regret that? Could he have just said, you know what, I'll take my money from another team? So we'll have to see what will happen now with the Texans, but they're 0-3. They started off. They had a rough schedule too. They started off against the defending Super Bowl champions, and then they went and moved against the Ravens, and then they played the Steelers. Tough schedule, but it's clear as day Bill O'Brien is on the hot seat in Houston. 0-3. It's crazy because Houston's another team that I think a lot of people had penciled in for a contender in the playoffs or even winning the AFC South. So Houston taking a step back without DeAndre Hopkins. Clearly they missed them. But hey, they got a first round pick. No, they don't. So Miami is going to reap the benefits of a high first-round pick from the Houston Texans. So that Laramie Tunsil trade worked out. I mean, they got a good left tackle, but they just potentially traded away a high first-round pick, what's looking to be like a top 5, top 10 pick. So Miami's going to get potentially 2 top 10 talents in next year's draft. Speaking of Miami, man, Ryan Fitzmagic showed up in Jacksonville. He beat Minshew Magic. And, I'm more of a goatee guy, but I think after Thursday, I might have to just start letting this all grow out and grow a beard so that I can be Ryan Fitzpatrick. But, like, the Dolphins went out there. They went out there and just took the game over from the beginning, leading against Jacksonville. And you have to look at that and you go, okay, there's something there with Minshew. Minshew, you can't overlook his stats. Like, okay, Miami had a good game plan. I think Miami had a good game plan. They had to stop Minshew. Obviously, they didn't have DJ Chark, which also impacted how the Jaguars played. Which this whole week has been like every team missing their wide receivers. We know Michael Thomas is out, but like the Packers went into Sunday Night Football without Devontae Adams. I mean, it seems like all the receivers were. I think Tennessee didn't have A.J. Brown against the Vikings on Sunday, so like all the receivers took a hit this week. But I think it's clear that there's something there with Minshew. His stats cannot be overlooked. He's, for the talent around him, and there's not a whole lot of talent there in Jacksonville. For the talent around him, he's been able to produce and succeed. He threw for 6 touchdowns in the first 2 games. He was the first quarterback for the Jaguars in history to throw for 3 touchdowns in 3 consecutive games. That tells you a lot about the Jacksonville Jaguars quarterbacks' problems. But there's something there with Minshew, and I think they need to get somebody there in Jacksonville that is going to develop him. They gave him a chance, and I believe there's something there. And they gotta find a head coach that may want to develop him, because there is something there, and they need to get him some offensive line help, build that defense back up. But I think Doug Marrone, I think he's on his last legs as a head coach. I think you bring in an offensive guru to help develop Minshew, and you look at what Minshew's been able to do now, and you bring in somebody that could help develop him even more. I think you have a shot at Minshew being a successful quarterback in the NFL. But Doug Marrone, I think his time in Jacksonville is up. It's done. I think, he's like the last piece of the puzzle there from like the Coughlin era. So I think if you take him away, you take away the general manager, and you start fresh, which maybe would lead to Minshew being traded, being outed, not being the quarterback. But at the very, very least, Minshew has shown that if he has the right coaching, I think he could succeed in the NFL. But Doug Marrone is not that guy. I think Jacksonville is going to be looking for a new head coach as well. I think Marrone's seat is hot as well there in Jacksonville. Those are the head coaches that are on the hot seat heading into week number 4 of the 2020 NFL season. Are there any coaches I left out? Yeah, I didn't talk about Matt Patricia, but I don't want to be... But we already know they're in a do-or-die situation. And with that win, against Arizona. It's not going to be like, okay, that's going to keep their job, but obviously we'll have to see how this plays out throughout the rest of the season. So, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. This will not be the only video for this week, as I will have a preview of week number 4 as I look at the dreadful Thursday night football opener of week 4 between the Broncos and the Jets. Man, can we get some flex scheduling for Thursday night football and get rid of this game? Put on a more competitive game. But anyway, I've been your host, Money Mike, and I will see y'all Thursday as I preview week number 4. And if there's any coaches that I may have missed, I didn't talk about, let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you all Thursday as we head into week number 4 of the NFL season. And well, I'm just hoping my Ravens come out with a big win over the Kansas City Chiefs later tonight in Monday Night Football. But we'll see. We'll see if I'm going to be happy on Thursday or I'm not.